welcome back to the Not Carrie Bradshaw YouTube channel. In this video, I'm recapping episode 9 of Lovecraft Country, the penultimate episode of the season. I really enjoyed this episode. I thought that the poetic symbolism of going to the past as a means to save yourself in the present or in the future, or to inform present or future decisions, I thought was really cool. I am in love with HBO, I guess, for giving both Watchmen and Lovecraft Country the opportunity to educate about the Tulsa massacre, but to also humanize it from a less, I guess, sterile perspective, because it's one thing to talk about horrific incidents, you know, past, present, or future. It's completely different to see them. You know, we've learned about so many terrible things that have happened to us in this country, but when you see it contextualized in the sense that these people had lives, they had whole, full lives, and that's something that you know, but something that we didn't really get to see. So I really enjoyed this episode for a number of reasons, which we will get to. So the episode opens up with Dee going through it. She's turned into a topsy, and she's going to die because of the spell that the captain put on her, and all the adults are surrounding her and realizing the ways in which they failed her on that day. And again, I think the important message of Dee's storyline is, look what happens to Black girls when they aren't listened to, when they aren't acknowledged, when they aren't prioritized. They turn into something entirely not themselves. And I think the greatest gift that we can give children, that we can give ourselves, is to facilitate an environment where we can grow into who we're supposed to be, right? And I think that this is an extreme case of what happens when you don't get to do that. So they're all the adults are trying to decide, well, where do we go from here? And Tick wants to call Christina because he's like, I don't want to take the chance of casting a spell wrong and then Dee dies even more than she already was going to. So we need someone who knows what they're doing. And he offers to trade Titus's pages in exchange for her helping them out, where we then discover, well, he then discovers that Letty already traded those pages to Christina for an invulnerability spell for Tick, but she gave that spell to Letty instead. Montrose does not take this well, and he's like, you was the main one talking about we need to leave magic alone, yet you put us all in danger because we don't know what this bitch has planned for the autumnal equinox that Tick mentioned in the last episode. And Montrose is angry, like, you sacrificed my son's life to save yours, is the way that he's looking at it. Even though he knows that Letty is pregnant, Letty and Ruby don't know that he knows. So Ruby steps in like, actually what you're not gonna do is come at my sister crazy. And Ruby says, I'll call Christina, she'll do it for me. And she has this very smug kind of look where it's like, right, I said it, she'll do it for me, is, will, did. And everybody's kind of like, okay. So Christina, being a white woman, agrees to come help Dee, but of course, it's in exchange for something, and the something is never small with Christina. And again, I continue to appreciate them showing Christina is just white feminism. I mean, she's white feminism living and breathing. She has her goal in her mind of immortality, and she's pretty, you know, blunt about what it is that she wants. And if y'all want my help, I mean, I'll help y'all, but I'm not gonna do it for free. That's really a huge part of what I think white feminists do today. They want, you know, equality, but only within these very small terms of the way they decide what equality is, and they want other people to take a back seat so they can do what it is that they want to do. And meanwhile, they're sacrificing other people's bodies in order to achieve those things. And we learn that she needs not a little bit of Tick's blood, she needs all of Tick's blood in order to complete this spell. So she says, I will help save Dee's life if you come with me willingly back to Artem. And Tick is like, okay, girl, fine. You know, because again, I think they all feel guilty for not stepping up for Dee in the way that they should have in the last episode. I don't trust Ruby. I think that Ruby has been changed in more ways than one. I think that Christina's actually, she's pretty honest and open about the fact that, like, yes, I'm using all of you bitches. But I think because Ruby is getting something very tangible in exchange for her body, she's just like, to hell with Tick, just don't hurt my sister. And I find that really puzzling. Like, what is Ruby's beef with Tick that she's willing? Does she hate Tick that much, or does she just love Letty that much that she's turning a blind eye to the fact that Christina fully intends to kill Tick so that she can achieve immortality? I think that she's just willing to go along with it because she wants to be able to navigate the world as a white woman, especially when she said the thing when they were in the basement about, I always want to be a redhead. Like, so are y'all about to go find a ginger to kill so that you can, like, girl, what? I feel like Ruby might be going over to the dark side. I can't tell if she's like a double agent or if she has actually been converted. Like, I don't trust Ruby. I don't trust Ruby. I don't trust Christina. But the thing is, Christina really don't be lying about who she is. She does a little manipulation where she's just like, I'm not your mama and I'm not your sister and you should know the difference. We know the difference, bitch. We just don't trust you. So that's that. Y'all know I have my notes. I like to try to be thorough, but my memory is just not, you know, hello, working on it. Queen Hippolyta returns. You know, they need, in order to save Dee's life, they need the blood of Dee's closest relative. Well, they thought that would be Montrose. This then forces Montrose to tell Tick the truth about, I might not be your daddy. And of course, Tick does not take this well. Tick, like, Montrose continues to drop bombs on Tick, and Tick is just destroyed every time. And then he's like, damn, so mama cheated on you? And, you know, Montrose explains to him, we, George, Dora, and Montrose were the three lone survivors, sole survivors of the Tulsa massacre, and they just had a bond and an understanding. It wasn't weird for them, and you know, it is what it is. So they actually need Hippolyta's blood, but unbeknownst to them, you know, Hippolyta will come back. She does come back, but because that would be her closest relative, right? That would be Dee's closest relative. So in comes Hippolyta. I'm in love with how Hippolyta came in, a woman of the world. I have experienced things. I know shit. I was on planet 504. Did they mean 504 like in the way that I'm thinking about it? Because I'm just thinking of fun songs from my youth. But anywho, and she explains, like, I have gained knowledge and experience that spans 200 Earth years, that's across universes and galaxies and things. So I'm gonna use what I learned to save my daughter. Where she at? What we doing? Let's get to it. So they cast this spell. They get Dee back to a normal state of, well, they get her to homeostasis, but in order to actually save her life, they decide they need to go into the multiverse machine and go back to Tulsa and retrieve the Book of Names before it can be burned in the fire, because we know that that's what happened to the book that Hannah ran out of the house with. It got subsequently burned in the Tulsa riots. So what I really liked about this too was that Hippolyta decides to be the motherboard. That's just so fucking cool to me. Like, she's like, I got this, like, no problem. So they open this portal for them to go to the Stratford Hotel the day of the Tulsa massacre, and the plan is go to Dora's family home, get the book, and let's get the hell out of there. What I really, really liked is how they arrived when life was still normal for these Black people in this community. And I find myself getting really upset at the fact that white people excluded us from living among them, having a prosperous life, having the same advantages of everyone else. And here these Black people form their own town, their own self-sustaining town, where, and I also, one of the things that I also really enjoy about seeing Black people from the past is how dignified everyone was. Like, everyone was just dressed up for no reason, but it was also the fact that, true to history, another thing I didn't know about this incident is that this happened on the day of a high school prom. And that makes it even more heartbreaking, because prom was one of my favorite things. I went to 4 prom. I loved the prom. And I genuinely can't imagine in real life the excitement of that day of getting dressed, and I don't know, I always like an event to look forward to, and just all that excitement, and then finding out that it gets canceled and then your whole world explodes. I really am just grateful and happy to that Watchmen and Lovecraft Country kind of almost back to back gave us a very humanizing view of what Tulsa was like for those residents before their lives were taken from them. And it's upsetting, and it's very upsetting for Montrose, because Montrose is going back to one of the possibly the most traumatic event of his life, and we land at seeing Montrose's father actively beating him, abusing him for putting a flower in his hair. And Montrose and Uncle George's father is played by Will Catlett, who is one of my favorite relatively newer actors. I first saw him on a web series years ago. I don't even remember what it was called, but I just enjoy his face, and I enjoy the nuances of his performances. He was in Love Is, which, you know, RIP to another show, Lost, but I thought he did a great job. What upset me, though, was seeing Dora's father come out to defend Dora against that abuse, but not really stepping in on behalf of Montrose. And we see George George doesn't really do enough for Dora's liking to help Montrose. And it was upsetting, because you see Dora's dad say, handle your kids how you want to, but leave mine alone. Why not take the extra step to interject? And I think that's one of the things that we need to work on in our community, is this secrecy and this notion of what happens in this house stays in this house. It ends up making everyone complicit in familial abuse. And I really wish that was something that we could unlearn, but I was happy that they put it there in this scene, because that's just something that we need to work on. So Montrose is watching this happen, and I think him watching it with Letty and Tick, it helps to inform for them why Montrose is who and how he is. And I think a whole big part of this series is showing how trauma left unresolved haunts you until you confront it. And I'm really hoping that this will be the turning point for Montrose's character, in that he's been able to confront what happened in his past with his son, who has suffered as a result of his past, there to see this is why this has happened. And something that I say all the time when it comes to mental health, when it comes to abuse and things of that nature, and they also said it on the podcast, but I promise I didn't steal this from them, having the full story of why a person is the way that they are provides an explanation, but not an excuse. It doesn't excuse him from abusing Tick, but at least now Tick can understand and they can move forward in a different way, as opposed to just thinking that a person is just like out of nowhere fucking you up and you don't really know why. Does it change that you've been abused? No, but it does provide some context so that you can make some semblance of sense of it, if that makes sense. I don't know. And we also learned that on this day, Montrose had a friend, and what was the friend's name? Thomas, and he runs off to actually go save Thomas. So present day, Montrose runs off. Tick and Letty are like, well shit, now we need to split up. You know, Letty goes to the family home to try to retrieve the Book of Names, and Tick goes off to find Montrose. Now, all the while, the riot is starting. And I'm just like, it was such a nail biter for me, because I was just like, how they gonna get through this one? Like, how they gonna come out the other side of this one? Like, I was legit terrified for them. Letty is in Hattie's house, and that woman, I'm sure it wasn't supposed to be funny, but it was funny to me how immediate it was that woman clocked that Letty was out of place. She was like, something ain't right about this one. I don't know about it. What I also really enjoyed about this scene is the fact that they showed that Black people fought back. I don't know where people got this whole we are not our ancestors shit from, but it's important to me for those people to know our ancestors fought back a lot. They were just against a lot. So I really was happy to see that they were armed, they had weapons, they had a plan. We gonna go to the roof, you shoot to warn, then you shoot to kill. Like I don't even want to say that they were prepared, but they were prepared, and they tried. And I really appreciate them showing maybe some form of homage to the people who came before us, because those people didn't just lay down and die. There were people who fought, and I appreciated them showing that. But basically, Letty ends up having to convince this woman that she is from the future and that she is looking for the Book of Names, because she definitely gets caught looking for this Book of Names. And a conversation I was having with one of my friends is that this woman stood in this burning house and agreed to her own demise so that she could save her future family. And I think that kind of maternal love is in and of itself magical, because I don't have no kids, and I cannot say in all honesty that I'd just be like, okay, well, I'll burn to death. Like, that to me, it was powerful, that they were holding hands and praying as this house is burning down around them, because we know Letty has this invulnerability spell, so she's protected, and the book is protected as well. The poem that was being read aloud is by Sonia Sanchez, and it's called Catch the Fire. I have this whole thing about the element of fire. I find it very fascinating. I'm not like an arsonist or anything. I don't play with fire. I don't do stuff like that. But I like the concept of fire, that it is something that provides light and that provides warmth and comfort, but left unchecked, it can also be very destructive. And in this poem, what I gathered from it is the fire, I think, is maybe what I think that she's saying. I could be wrong, and I intentionally didn't really look up what other people thought this poem was about, because I like my own idea of it. I think it's just talking about the beauty that we have made our culture into, given all of the struggle that we've come from. Because there's a line in it that talks about pig intestines being turned into chitlins, which is like a delicacy for some Black people. Not for me. I tried, do not enjoy it, but I think that we've gone through so much since being brought here up until this very moment, and we've still been able to create really beautiful things and beautiful people and beautiful concepts and a culture of our own, especially for African Americans. I deeply enjoyed that poem. I felt very moved by it. I love the imagery of Letty walking through the fire. like the bad bitch she is. I don't know. Again, this show is really inspiring me to look more into the literature of Black female writers from before, who I feel robbed that I wasn't taught more about them, even growing up in Atlanta. And I feel really motivated to go back and to read more of the things that they wrote and that they said and that they created, because I think what this episode shows us is that Black women hold multitudes of keys from the past for the present and the future. And I found this whole scene, this whole idea just powerful and beautiful. And the way that Letty confessed how much she loved Tick and, you know, wanted him to exist, it was all beautiful. The other thing that I really liked is, so Montrose has always told Tick about the story of how they survived that night, and that there was this mysterious stranger that came in and saved them, you know, after Thomas is shot in the head in front of him. And, you know, this was, by all accounts, I guess, Montrose's boyfriend, and he was breaking up with him because he, you know, didn't want to be labeled. You know, he didn't want to be treated differently or abused. And as he's breaking this boy's heart, he gets murdered. And Montrose wants to save him, and he explains to Tick, Thomas is just one of many sacrifices that I made in order to be your father, because all I wanted to be was your father. And I think Tick needed to know that. I think Tick needed to hear that his dad loves him and wants him, and that he's just had a hard fucking time. And I am a huge fan of a callback. I love when comedians do callbacks in their jokes. I love seeing full circle moments in a series that I'm invested in. So I was really happy that Tick ends up being the stranger who saves his family. He retroactively saved his parents with this baseball bat, which is, you know, a callback to the opening scene from the very beginning of the series. And again, powerful shit. I loved it. They get back through the portal, and, you know, so Montrose was able to quite literally confront his past, and they save, you know, they get the Book of Names, and the whole time Hippolyta is turning into Orinthia Blue, which is the character that Dee drew her to be. So it's almost like Dee predicted her mom's own future. I thought that was really cool too. Let me just make sure I did not leave anything out, because there was a lot that I wanted to say about this episode, but, you know, we have to keep time in mind, because I try not to hold y'all too long when I do these things, because I know I tend to ramble. But that was it. I'm excited but sad that the season finale is coming up next. And like I said, I hope that you guys feel motivated from watching the show and from listening to the podcast, the official Lovecraft Country podcast, which I always link to in the episode description, to go back and to read some of the words that our mothers wrote before us. I'm currently reading Alice Walker's In Search of Our Mother's Gardens, and just feeling seen and empowered and curious. I want to know more about what those women wrote and had to say, because they contain multitudes. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Sorry if it went a bit long. Drop down the comments, let me know if I missed anything, or if there's anything you want to delve into more. And thank you to everybody who routinely comes to the comments. I super appreciate you guys watching me and talking to me politely. And I'll see you guys next time. Be sure to subscribe and share and all those good things. Bye!